All right, the big question coming at you on today's episode of Morning Kick Around. There's been a whole lot of news. Both Major League Soccer and USL have, kind of planted some seeds for some big changes coming. It seems clear that the American powers that be recognize they are not capturing the American audience as much as the popularity of the sport of soccer is growing. So my question is, each entity kind of doing their own thing as far as MLS teasing the European calendar. USL has done that as well, but also the biggest news lately for them has been the eventual implementation of promotion relegation. So my question, the big question here to round out the show today, what is likely to capture more of the American attention, a European calendar or promotion and relegation?
Wow, Euro calendar is something that I think, as much as pro rel is the dream, I think people have always thought of the Euro calendar as this more attainable thing, right? You don't have to figure out how to move teams between leagues. You don't have to, you don't have to figure out if MLS is going to work with other competitions with their weird single entity thing. You don't have, there's a lot of less, there's fewer moving parts. It's tougher. I mean, it's a tough lift, but it's fewer moving parts. I think though that pro rel is the bigger fundamental change. Like, you just switch the calendar and non-soccer fans will go, okay. MLS used to be in the summer, now it's not. They may be surprised by it, but they're not going to think about it as a fundamentally different way of doing the sport. But pro rel is so unique to American sports that I think that just based on that, and we've seen it already, it's exploded beyond the normal soccer bubble and has been getting attention outside of that. It would certainly, I think it would be bigger. Now, I don't think that the European calendar for MLS would not be a significant change that could bring improvements to the league. As much as I worry about the weather situation, Rob, there absolutely is a very strong argument that MLS would benefit greatly from being lined up transfer window wise with European teams it wants to do business with. It wants to buy teams, players from, and it wants to sell players to.
Yeah, the promotion and relegation, that's like smack you in the face sort of change. A lot more people might kind of narrow their focus like, oh, so if my little town team like continues to win, we can, keep on moving up a ladder. I feel like that is more obvious change. But whereas the calendar thing, that's probably more of like a long-term thing where like certain aspects of the quality improve, like maybe like the baseline player quality just like notches up a little bit because more players are free in the summer to make that transfer in more of a natural way, not in mid-season as it is now. And then just like kind of like almost like would deepen certain things to kind of like align Major League Soccer with what is familiar to people that watch leagues across the world, but it's definitely not going to like hit you over the head like, oh my God, game changer. They're not playing in the summer anymore. But I think, important. Also, which one of these two is harder to implement? I mean, goodness.
Well, I mean, like I said, I think that in terms of the legal elements of it and lots of and the money, like parachute payments and things like that, and obviously, look, we've already seen USL kind of go through this process of explaining, and it's mostly fallen to Paul McDonough, that it's going to take some work and they don't know the format yet, and it's possible there won't be any relegation for like, again, there's the devil is in the details when it comes to pro rel and that's within USL. And obviously we're talking about, we're not even talking about the idea of all of America's professional leagues being linked up into one pyramid. Like that's almost impossible to imagine, again, because each one of those leagues its own business. They're not going to just choose to partner and move their clubs between businesses, and legally that gets all messy and those kind of things. So if you're talking about what's harder to implement, I think it's pro rel by a lot, because MLS can make decisions for MLS and just switch their calendar if they want. Now, there is obviously, it's not that there's no logistical things here, because now you have to work stadium leases out. You have to figure out, do you have to spend money on winterizing, not even winterizing, but like being able to make fields playable in the winter if you're trying to do that. And you obviously have the complication of the calendar, the schedule, Rob. How many games are you playing north of a certain latitude when you know it could be wintry weather and you risk putting games on your schedule that would be canceled or have to be delayed or postponed, and nobody wants that. So it's not that either of them are easy. I just think pro rel is a lot more legally fraught. But somebody's saying here that the European calendar, this is Bernardo, European calendar is a bigger global change. Pro rel is a bigger local change.
I
You see
like
it
that
that way?
framing. I like that framing. Yeah, that is nice. Like I was saying, the hit you over the head sort of a aspect of it, like the small town person or fan, like because I can feel like here in Detroit locally, like if DCFC won that league, you'd feel like, well, now what? Well, now what? And then, so if there is something beyond that, that would bring more people in. And then those small towns that we saw, celebrating with passion in the Open Cup, like there is a bigger carrot to dangle for those sort of, it's not a dead end supportership with the promotion and relegation. And I like that the way that Bernardo classified this. But your comment earlier about the winterization of stadiums, if there's a calendar change, a part of this pro rel stuff is the pro league standards and how there's lots of requirements for sizes and whatnot. Do you think a practical PLS, if they do go to the Euro calendar, is provisions like a pro league standard is maybe a covered stand or a warm like a heat underheated field or something like that? I mean, if we they're putting big expectations already with the size of these stadia, but
Sure.
maybe acknowledging the difficulties of the conditions could be baked into that too, perhaps.
Well, I don't know. Maybe. I mean, I don't think PLS can dictate calendar. Like, I don't think U.S. soccer is in a
No,
position
but
to say,
acknowledging the calendar in the Pro League standard. So if we're going European and the heart of our season is in Antarctica conditions, you should accommodate the stadium for that.
I don't know. No, I don't think that that's something U.S. soccer can get involved in. That's up to the league. If the league chooses to play on a European style calendar, then the league has to figure out how to schedule its season so it doesn't have a bunch of games impacted by wintry weather and freezing temperatures. And if it does decide to play games in places that could be impacted by that stuff, and even in southern climates, you can end up playing in 30-degree weather or whatever, or even colder, depending on the big weather events that we seem to get all the time now. So I guess the league then would have to determine: do we have to dictate to clubs that you have to have underfield heating, which I believe Sporting does. I don't know who else might have it, or you have to have other accommodations, and certainly again, ways to protect fans is part of that. I would guess. I mean, again, this is why I think even Don Garber has been hesitant to commit to that idea as it's been floated, and as we've seen the reports from Paul Norio and people like that. It's like, is this something we can do without losing a big portion of our fan base? Like, are people ready? So this is a comment from the other SM. As an MLS season ticket holder, the crowd sizes are significantly larger over the summer. The fan base won't support soccer in freezing temperatures. Right? We're not conditioned to go watch soccer in freezing temperatures. We are conditioned to watch football in December in Green Bay, and people will willingly do that. So I don't. Is that a cultural shift you can make? Can you retrain your fan base, or are you saying to a certain portion of your fan base, we're not for you anymore? Like, you're sending that message, and those summer crowds, a lot of those summer crowds are kids, right? Major League Soccer has moved its marketing away from families because that was the original approach, right?
Yeah.
Bring your kids out to the soccer match. You might get a free thunder stick or whatever it is. And it's going to cost you, back in the day in MLS, it cost you what, $15 a ticket or whatever it was. And while the league has moved its marketing away from that, and now it's about intense support and passionate supporters and showing flares in the stands that are actually banned, which makes people upset and all those things. It doesn't mean that those families aren't going out in the summer and aren't a major part of MLS revenue, because what we talked about with the Apple TV deal and putting all of the games in a 7:30 local window, right? The owners want to make sure that they have their game day revenue, while everybody else is like, but this isn't great for television. But they're holding on to that because they don't see a replacement for it. And I don't know, with all the talk about the Apple TV deal not going all that great and the paywall not being good for the league's growth, is there a future in which MLS has to reckon with the money it gets from its television contract, and does that dictate what it decides to do with its calendar, Robert?
Exciting challenges ahead. We'll see how all those questions are answered over time. I'm impatient. I want all these things to happen, but we're definitely on the preliminary stages of big changes coming to American soccer. Thank you to everyone who's tuned into today's episode of Morning Kick Around. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so already. Hit the thanks button and perhaps add some couple dollarooskies to the Morning Kick Around coffers. And there's subscriptions and services that we have to pay for. So any sort of contribution to keep add some sustainability to the program, and then eventually some growth and expansion of the program. Thanks to anyone who's done so already. Write us a note, morningkickaround@gmail.com. Follow us along on social media at mkickaround, X, Instagram, Blue Sky. And you can also support and get bonus content at coffee.com/morningkickaround. And before we go today, should acknowledge this weekend, Sunday, it's the MK Derby. Liverpool traveling to Fulham. Those are our teams that we support. We clash against each other. They were 2-2 last time they met in December, which was a kind of a mini wobble for Liverpool as they march toward their 20th First Division title. What do you think of the game? You're not willing to bet. I was willing to put on a silly hat or something if Fulham won. But what do you think will happen if you're not willing to put any of your dinero on the line?
I think Liverpool's going to win the soccer game. Is what I think is going to happen. And
it's the first versus ninth clash.
Look, Fulham is a club that has probably overachieved a little bit this season, and I'm glad for that. I'm glad that Fulham has put themselves even for a moment in a conversation about making Europe, right? And if they end up finishing ninth, no Fulham fan is going to be upset about that. It's only relative to where we've been. Like, oh, we're in ninth. We're only a couple points back of clubs like Newcastle and City. If only just one or two more results went our way, what could have been? And
they gave away some leads. They gave away some leads this year.
Yeah, they've given us away some leads. They obviously just lost to Arsenal after the disappointment in the FA Cup, which, to lay an egg at home against Crystal Palace hurts worse than losing to Arsenal or losing to Liverpool. And thank you, fixture makers, for putting Arsenal and Liverpool back-to-back for my Fulham Football Club. Appreciate that.
Last question. Is Anthony Robinson wearing red next year?
Is he wearing red? If that means Liverpool, I think it's very likely. I don't know what the number is. He's not a young player, so he's not an investment property. He is now, you're buying him because you think he can help you win a title next year, is what that is. It's interesting.
We shall see what happens. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. We will be back on Monday morning, and until then, everybody, please enjoy your soccer.